The miracle. My grandpa Louis told me many years ago he lived in Seattle, where it always rained. He and his little son Louis, my dad. In those days, Grandpa Louis sold books. I imagine the books wide and cloth-bound, but I don't really know how they were. I only know that he carried them in a worn suitcase, looking for sales door to door, street to houses and offices, crossing bridges, crisscrossing Seattle. They lived in hotels, desolate rooms with stained wallpaper, cold. He heated up their food with a hobo's stove, or sometimes they ate the humblest meal in some downtown cafe of that rainy city. Every morning, he went out with the full suitcase to sell his books, pulling along by the hand, skinny like a floating kite. His little son Louis, my dad. It was during the Great Depression of the 30s. My grandma had left him, and she kept the daughter, Dorothy. He didn't have any other family because he came young and alone from Russia. In those days, little Louis needed shoes. His were worn because of walking with his dad, selling the books. And my grandpa, for all that he struggled, couldn't put together the money he needed for little Louis's shoes. There were already holes in the bottom. His feet were touching the cold, dirty cement, and my grandpa told me that he came back to that miserable hotel at night and wept with shame of being a father and not being able to buy a damn pair of shoes for his son. I visualized my Grandpa Louis in the poorly furnished room, a wooden chair, a wobbly table, a sunken cot, a tall, narrow window that looked out on the street. It was night. You could see the rain in the light from the street lamp. The boy sat by his side, and my Grandpa Louis cried because of shame and loneliness and the humiliation of not being able to buy for his son, my dad, the shoes that he needed. What is a man if he can't care for his child? He still wept 40 years later saying these words. He cried and prayed to God on his knees for a way to get shoes for his son. One Sunday morning, almost spring, they went out to sell, as usual. The rain had just stopped. Trees and bushes were dripping. Clouds rose and floated, making shapes in a pale blue sky. Quiet, they walked their usual streets, and not knowing why, turned down an unfamiliar alleyway. There, they found the brown leather shoes, almost new, and exactly the right size for my dad, little Louis. He put them on, and they continued on their way. This was the miracle with which God blessed my Grandpa Louis, who, when he was elderly, told me this story. Okay, so this is called Cumbia de un amor efímero. I met him dancing cumbia in Watsonville. Dizzying lights in a parking lot, melting heat between us, pulled into his hard hip bone in a doorway on a rainy street. He was 30 and I was 44. I was a teenager when he was born. He was Purépecha from Morelia, Michoacán. Tall, tender, ginger-haired and freckled, sangre dulce. When he first came here, he took care of horses at Bay Meadows racetrack, slept there with the other workers. Then he did construction for a boss who lived in Stockton, and he lived with his sister, nephews, and cousins off Green Valley here in town. He and I danced on the cement ship, surrounded only by moonlight and seagulls' cries, in sync at angled thighs, shoulders, and feet. Warm hands our only touch. At my house, we would read in the afternoon. I was reading a novel, and he a stack of my bilingual picture books from Children's Book Press to improve his English. Como venimos al quinto mundo, he confessed, was the first book he had ever read cover to cover. His sister Lourdes made a birthday party for him at the house, stringing multicolored lights around the patio, tables full with red and green enchiladas, pollo and mole his favorite, tres leches cake. The younger cousins danced rock with us, laughing, and we danced cumbia while the family watched, making a circle around us, sparks flying between our eyes, my green silk blouse flowing above my jeans. He told me, stammering the words, he never intended to fall in love with a gringa. When he left home, he promised himself he would not be stuck with one foot in Mexico and one in the U.S., unable to belong in either place. He would return home to marry, make a family. I knew the litany of differences between us. On the phone at Christmas, while I was washing dishes at my mom's kitchen sink, he told me he was going to stay away. I somehow broke the soapy glass, my fist inside cut deep, watched surprising blood flowing, red on white, clear water washing it away. Harsh months later, I saw him again in the same place where we had met. He hugged me and whispered into my neck that he was going to marry a girl from the pueblo of his family, a pregnant teenager, ginger like him. And we danced, his warm hand grasping the long scar on mine. This is called Bike Ride in Alameda. Leave the house wearing a vest in case it's windy. Turn up wood, then left on Eagle several blocks. Struggle through the park on the bike path. Hoarse with the effort knees and thighs must make to ride into the headwind, like hiking uphill. It'll be easier on the way back. Hit the pedestrian buttons on Constitution, Webster, Fifth, and Main. Be patient. Push through the wind, past dog and grocery-laden walkers, around the corner of the new bike path at the construction site. And now you're free out on the asphalt, making slow curves in the wind, persevering. Stand up sometimes for a couple of minutes so gravity can help you push. Ride all the way to the end. Lean the bikes against the chain-link fence in the corner, distanced from parked cars. Sit on the cement chunk rocks at the edge of the white-capped green-blue water and watch birds. The strength of seagulls holding place against the wind. A quick turn and rapid arc east and up. A pair of slender white birds with orange beaks skim the water. Duck under to hunt, then rise soaring fast, weaving a dual flight pattern. A pelican crashes through the shiny surface from skyscraper height. A black cormorant dives. Let your mind drift while staring at the green movement of the water. Breathe the moving, oxygen-thick air. Think about the implications of words, how they're put together, what you mean to say. Stay 5, 10, or 15 minutes here. Pick up the bike, head back. The wind feels oddly still, not pushing from behind. Instead, it lifts and you float. Thank you.